Newton Crouch Incorporated presents technical tips.
Have two injection pumps back here on the back that can be individually controlled from the cab, and this allows us to keep our chemicals in this tank and prevents us from having to tank mix product in the main tank. So that main tank up top only has water in it. So operate would be the position that the console would be in while you're operating the truck, right? While you're spraying. And setup would be the mode whereby we would enter boom widths, flow meter calibration number, distance calibration number, those type setup features. Once that setup is done, the only reason an operator would go to setup is to periodically calibrate the injection pumps. Turn it one more position to 2 o'clock there. That's total applied, and notice in the operate mode it's saying that we've already applied 5 gallons. If we wanted to zero that counter out, we would hold the decrease switch down until we hit 0, and it's reset. Like if we filled the tank up, we would certainly want to start a new job by zeroing that counter out to know how many gallons of water was applied. Go to the setup mode while in that position. All right, that right there is the how do we know how many gallons did this sprayer apply? That's measured by what we call a flow meter, and the flow meter has a turbine in it that spins as the product goes through it. And if all flow meters have a flow meter calibration number stamped on it, or a decal, or some sort of indication of how many pulses per gallon do I need to send to this controller before it registers 1 gallon. So when that controller receives 299 pulse counts from that flow meter back there, it'll register 1 gallon on the display. So that's how it knows gallons. We have 2 injection pumps, pump number 1, pump number 2, chemical number 1, chemical number 2. So we have a hose going from this tank through this pump and being injected into the plumbing in front of the tank. We have a calibration valve here. This position is off. In other words, the output of the pump has no place to go. That's not a good place to, not a good position unless you just wanted to try to keep water from leaking out, like if I wanted to change the hoses or whatever. Pointed in this direction, we're going to actually have volume coming out of this catch hose here. But if we were actually applying through the nozzles, we would actually want these valves to be in the injection position. This would be for normal operation. But for calibration, today what we're going to do is turn this valve around and divert the output of this pump down this hose and collect it here. So we've zeroed out our counter up front, and by touching the top button there and collecting what's coming out, we're just going to make the pump run. We're going to collect our volume. We're going to read the volume on the side of the calibration container, and then compare that known volume to the calculated volume on the console and see if they agree. Be sure to collect all of that. Now the next obstacle is a flat surface, so you'd need to make sure that you're reading the calibration jug precisely. And if you're not level, you need to try to make it as level as possible. But that looks very close to 24 ounces, doesn't it?
Right.
might be just shy of 24 ounces. So this is what we know we collected. The console in the cab thinks it knows how much it collected. Let's go see what the counter says. We change it to the operate mode, which it now says what?
23.4.
23.4 ounces. So we knew it was just below the 24 ounce line. So we could either tweak that to actually say 24 or do a bigger test of, say, 50 ounces or 60 ounces. You know, the more you collect, the better the indication of accuracy. But let's assume that we were dead on 24 ounces and we collected 23.4 on the console. That can be manipulated by changing the calibration number. So interestingly, you can flip to setup and just guess, increase that number by just a little bit and see if you can start changing the value in the operate mode. See, that increased it slightly, right?
Very slightly.
Yeah. So now increase it by a greater factor. You see where you're headed. So if you'll eventually adjust it to where you can get 24 to actually read on the console.
That's pretty close.
That's pretty close. So, you know, if you had any doubt, you would just simply zero out the volume counter in the operate mode.
Right.
And you would go back to the calibration and do it again. Maybe collect a larger volume and compare what you actually catch in the container to the volume calculated on the console. And when you've got it to agree, you're calibrated.
Right. So is volume going to be volume, or are we going to be, you know, do you want to do that for each different chemical?
Good question, because you might have something the same viscosity of water act differently than something real thick. Right. That might be a heavier product. So it is really good to always calibrate with the actual chemical in the tank.
Technical assistance is available online 24/7 on our YouTube channel or our website, newtoncrouch.com. You can call us at 800-241-1350 Monday to Friday and speak with a real person. No recorded messages. Our knowledgeable staff will be glad to assist you. Proudly made in America, a family-owned business since 1940, Newton Crouch.